Welcome to the big picture on your, is it Tuesday?
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. 2 days in. So.
I know.
Yeah. Did you do anything with the nice weather yesterday?
You know, I opened up the windows for the cats so they could get some fresh air.
Yeah.
I took a walk to my Pilates class. That was really pleasant. I don't like to run outside or anything, but I'll walk outside. So
That's
I
fair.
walked there, got my workout on, and walked home. And then I opened up the windows and got some fresh air. I told you I baked a whole chicken. It took forever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I know. You can bake a frozen chicken.
Which I did not know. I am firmly the
You
thought
can.
and then throw it in kind of
Yes.
person.
I was like, oh, I'm just going to throw it in. It's fine. I'll just have some extra moisture in there. It took I started at 2 and it didn't get pulled out of the oven until 6:30.
What?
I know. It was on 4:25.
Because
The whole time.
when you said how long it took, I was like, a whole chicken only takes maybe 40 minutes.
Yeah, I know. And this was a big frozen chicken too. Anyway, so that's what I did, but I had the windows open for it.
Yeah.
So it was a nice day.
I know. And I want to be outside. I want to go do things, but with this
knee.
current bum knee, I can't really do anything about it.
Must stay inside a little bit longer.
I'm hoping. Give it another week. That'll be oot and a boot.
Oot and a boot.
Oot and a boot.
I love it.
I don't know. Who knows?
Well,
Who knows?
we need to be because we are going to be training for the 4-miler, which we are now.
Somehow we managed to agree to do.
We shook on that yesterday live on television.
Because that's for the memorial, right?
Yeah, it is. Do you think you'll be good by then? We can walk it. Remember I said I don't like to run?
That's true. We
can power walk it.
We did say that we could power walk it because I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what once I ever get into a doctor with this thing.
Which is coming up. You will report back.
Yes, next Friday.
The findings.
Next Friday. So you won't even hear about that until not this next Monday, but the Monday
you'll have
after.
to keep watching.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about our headlines today. Switching gears to the news. So, women's soccer. Is it coming to Columbus? This discussion continues to happen. A lot of debate around it. And a lot of the neighbors in the McCoy Park area, they're worried about McCoy Park. And if this new facility for the women's soccer team, which has been proposed to be placed there, is going to ruin the park. And then where's the other park going to go? Because Mayor Andrew Gither, he says, we will have another McCoy Park. But where that will be, we don't know.
Right.
So we have City Councilman
Luke Bankston. Luke Bankston's coming to join us.
He's coming on here to talk to us about a city council meeting last night and maybe some rental assistance programs as well if we have some time for it. So interesting topic.
That is one that is continuing to gain a little bit of controversy there because, the mayor says, well, we'll build a new park, but there's no plans for where said new park goes.
Right.
And because if you don't know where McCoy Park is, it's off Green Lawn Avenue, past the cemetery. It's way down there. But the question is, do we tear up that park? And some people seem to, say, leave our park alone, put this training facility somewhere else. So, of course, that's going to be something to talk about with Councilman Bankston coming up at 9:30.
Yeah. And then we are talking about just multiple Ohio legislators, their new effort to curb and control sports betting in the state of Ohio. We have an economist coming on to talk about this new law that is trying to be passed in the state of Ohio. And if it does pass, how that would affect the state's economy. Because, gambling is no joke. It generates millions of dollars. So we'll have that coming up at 9:45. But first, we want to talk about the 2 major crashes that happened within the last 2 days. And 4 people have died.
Right. They've been deadly.
Yes.
Let's
start with the
I-70.
Okay.
Or I-71.
I-71.
Up there toward south of Delaware.
We just got the video from Ohio Department of Transportation.
Right.
So this is nearby US 26 and the State Route 37 interchange, which is by the
36-37 interchange there.
outlets. And if you've driven over in this area, it's bad. There's a lot of construction happening.
There's a lot of construction because even that Sunbury exit or the 36-37 exit that used to always be a 2-lane exit is down to 1 lane right now. And then there's just pretty much right around at this point, it feels like
there's
from the Polaris Gemini exit all the way up there. It's basically construction at this point.
And truck drivers, huge semis are always traveling on it. There's no a way around that as well. So there's huge vehicles on the road there. But we want to play that. We have the video that we just got.
Yes.
So it shows, so right there, that red circle, you can see the white semi slowly approaching. You can see that train of cars pretty close to each other right in front of it.
Right.
And
All
then,
slowed down for,
slowed
various
down for
traffic.
purposes.
And that is because that exit right there that you're seeing, that is that Sunbury.
And then right there, that moment where we stop, we are not going to show the moment of impact, but that is when the truck hits those series of cars, causing a 9-car collision, killing a father, a mother, and a baby.
Yeah.
It's just so tragic, and it shut down that whole highway for hours on Saturday.
Right.
And we spoke to witnesses over the weekend who watched it all play out in front of their eyes, and they're shaken up about it.
They are.
It was frightening to see. We're going to play some of that sound now.
At that moment, I wasn't worried about myself or my car or anything. The people in the cars and watching the one car go up in flame and not seeing anyone get out of it was heartbreaking.
Saw no indication of him trying to stop or slowing down. A couple extra minutes out of your day is not going to ruin your day.
So Modu Nogam, he has been charged with vehicular homicide, and he was in court yesterday where the judge gave him a bond for $500,000.
Right.
There he is right there.
And as we talked about a little bit yesterday, is how eerily similar this one is to
the Tusky
Valley bus crash that happened in 2024 it was in November? Sounds about, well, yeah. It was late 2024.
Yeah, it was definitely in the fall because they were traveling to Columbus for the band to play.
The band was traveling into Columbus for a big conference at the downtown convention center. And just like in this one, it was in a construction zone there just outside of Etna. And all of the traffic was stopped, including this charter bus full of the Tusky Valley band kids, followed by a small SUV that had teacher chaperones and parent chaperones in it. And the driver in that case also did not slow down. I think the NTSB report in that one said he was going 72 miles an hour. So he was going at full highway speeds when this bus and car in front of him were either stopped or moving very slowly due to the construction traffic, slammed into the back of them. And
similar to this, those cars were moving fairly slow in that construction area. And obviously, like we said, that highway on Saturday was shut down for hours, obviously, as investigators and crash reconstructionalists try to work through the mess that was left behind. I mean, the cars were on fire. I mean, there was smoke. So there was a lot of the scene that they had to work through, and we'll probably be finding out more about that coming up in the weeks. We do know that the suspect, his next hearing is next week, so we'll follow that, of course. Yeah. So on to the other crash that we brought you as breaking news yesterday on 10 TV News this morning. Yeah. This was on 270 and Monday.
Yes, it was yesterday morning, and this all started like right around 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
This was
right before we came on air,
dead in the middle of the night, and this was just around the Georgesville Road exit on 270. So, what happened? We are learning a little bit more about what this was because there was a little bit of confusion earlier in the morning about what kind of crash was this? Was this the wrong way? Was it not? Later, we did find out it was not a wrong way driver crash, but we did get some video from ODOT yesterday of this crash, and you can see here, this is how it started at about 3 o'clock in the morning. And off there, you see the two cars with their hazard lights on, and what that was, it was two cars pulled over there in the emergency lane, the shoulder. They were changing a tire at the time. And then eventually another car pulls up from behind, loses control, and slams into these two. And that's when one woman died and the other person who was changing the tire was seriously hurt.
45-year-old Jody Tackett was inside, and then police confirmed she died there on the scene. But see that car in the middle of the highway up to the right, Collin? That's why everyone was speculating if it was a wrong-way driver, because that car is so far removed from the other two cars, and it looks like it completely spun around. But when you're in an accident at a high rate of speed like that, I mean, your car can flip and spin and travel across the highway. So, again, 45-year-old Jody Tackett, she died as a result of this crash. And but we do know that the person who was outside of both of the vehicles trying to change the tire, they are still in critical condition this morning.
And also another thing to note about that crash is that the driver who hit them, who lost control of the car and hit them, ran
on foot.
They ran away, but
scene.
They were arrested and are likely facing charges at this time. Don't really know the exact nuances of all of that, but they were taken and arrested because of for that accident.
Again, that was another crash investigation that people had to come out and they have to investigate and shut down the highway for hours, and it later reopened kind of around 9 when we came on the air for the big picture.
Yeah.
And so, a little bit before that, I would say. But we had Matt Bruning, the ODOT press secretary, on yesterday with us live on the big picture. And we were asking him, he can only share so much information about the ongoing investigation because obviously law enforcement's involved and they are still investigating what led up to all of that. But we asked Matt about ODOT's part in these types of deadly crashes because they can't do too much because they're not law enforcement. But we asked him about what they do with the information that they eventually do get from law enforcement. This is what he had to say. So we want to just talk about this. You clarified, and Sergeant Albert did with Columbus Police, that this was not a case of a wrong way driver.
Yeah. And we have seen wrong way crashes, obviously, in Central Ohio. They make the news almost every time we see some kind of a wrong way crash, but they're extremely rare. They make up about 0.01% of all crashes that we see in the state of Ohio each year. So extremely rare, but something we take very, very seriously because they're 40 times more likely to be deadly than other crash types. So something that we have invested a lot in to try to, reduce the risk of occurring.
And I know the information's limited right now with what you can share because this is an ongoing investigation, but what can you tell us so far about what led up to this crash?
Well, all I can tell you from ODOT's perspective is we talk about when the road is closed and the road is open. So at this point, the road is open. It will be up to Columbus Police to do the investigation. That's their job. I won't get in their lane. They're the ones that will be looking at all the factors about what happened. So, certainly we'll be interested to see what they determine as to what occurred. ODOT reviews every fatal crash that is on our system in the state of Ohio. And so we're always looking for ways we can learn to try to mitigate those fatal crashes from occurring in the future.
Although Matt couldn't reveal too much about the investigation, we did speak to Columbus Police about what they believe led up to this crash, and this is what they told us yesterday.
Yeah, so I'm looking back at some of our, confirmed reporting and stuff from here where we had been in contact with Columbus Police and Sergeant Albert, who is one of the PIOs for Columbus Police, and that it appeared that the driver had gotten on the wrong way, but, immediately noticed that, I got on the wrong way, spun around, and was actually going in the correct direction
at the time of
the crash. So it isn't a wrong way driver crash, but so I think there was some confusion there from initial reports and stuff of like, this is somebody that was going the wrong way, because we've seen those. But as we've talked with Matt Bruning over the years about these past couple of years, that these account for a very, very tiny amount of crashes in the state of Ohio, although they always get traction because it's so shocking. And then we got into a couple months there where it seemed like they were happening all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can watch that full interview on our YouTube page, 10tv.com, under the live tab with Matt Bruning. He goes more in depth about the new wrong way signs that are up across the state on highways here in the Central Ohio area as well. So we're going to take a quick break, but coming up, we have Jay Fox from the Ohio News Network. He will be on talking about a lot of the news happening around the state.
Right,
so we'll be right back. I'm out of breath.
Oh, welcome back.
Welcome back. I had to take down some chairs and set them
But
up.
you can breathe easier.
That's kind of pathetic that
I
I'm
was
out
trying
of
to figure
breath
out
from that. And
why I
I took a
couldn't.
little tumble. They really just so much fun behind the scenes,
It
right?
is. It's live television,
It
live
is.
podcasting. I don't know. I couldn't hear myself, and I was like, "Oh, I've unplugged myself." I was like,
But I said we've turned a full-service hotel into a bed and breakfast.
All right, Jay, you are going to talk
What's
about
going on with the EPA?
Well,
right now.
the good news is we can breathe easier. And that is not just metaphorically, it's literally. So you remember that Governor Mike DeWine was up in Cleveland last week. And for the first time in years, Cleveland received an attainment rating from the U.S. EPA and the Ohio EPA. And what that means is that they meet or exceed air quality standards for specific pollutants. Well, then Canton got attainments. So now, for the first time in eons, every county, all 88 counties, are in attainment. And this is good news because, I mean, you got to look at the Canton example is the one that I keep going back to. You know, I'm from Cleveland. So I'm a total
Go-Birds.
homer. And I don't care if we've had pollution problems. But in 3 years, Canton reduced its lead by 98%.
Wow.
That's like, it literally, it's like turning off the switch.
Yeah.
I mean, they're serious about their e-checks
are.
too with their cars. Like, they really take it
Because I
seriously.
was going to say, I forget up there. You have to
don't-
go through vehicle
Yes.
Well,
inspections.
and you have to do that because the air quality historically has been so low.
Right.
And what amused me is the governor said, Ohioans hate e-check. He didn't mince words at all. And that is how people felt in Cuyahoga and Summit and Portage County. What's even more interesting is how good this is for the state beyond all of the health aspects. So $20 billion annually in economic advantages for the state of Ohio. Why? Because of decreased healthcare costs. So when you have poor air quality, you're dealing with chest pain, coughing, worsening asthma, vulnerable populations having illnesses, and people taking off work. That $20 billion is a great savings. And what it also does is it enables the state to be able to go to prospective businesses to get them to relocate to the Buckeye State or establish business in the Buckeye State and say, hey, you know what? We have clean air.
Yeah.
That's a big win.
Right. Now, one thing I really want to get to right now is the Cleveland school cuts, because it's something that we're very familiar with here in Columbus, because really it's just been the past couple months that Columbus has had to find $50 million to cut out of its multi-billion-dollar budget
Just a little tax.
just to keep the ship afloat. And in Columbus, we're talking school closures, transportation changes, and also staffing reductions. And it sounds like Cleveland's kind of finding themselves in the same boat.
Well, and not everyone's on the same page with regard to whether these cuts are necessary. So the union is saying there is no financial problem, but the superintendent is saying if we don't do this now, we're going to have a major problem. And if you look back historically at the city of Cleveland with this school district, they've been in receivership twice.
Yeah.
1981 and then again in 1995. And the state of Ohio said enough is enough. And in 1998, they put them under permanent mayoral control. So now the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, which is what it's now called, they've announced 410 full-time positions being eliminated. And it's part of what they call the Building Brighter Futures Restructuring Initiative. They're trying to address $150 million in deficit over the next 3 years. So who's impacted? It's staff, it's teachers, it's paraprofessionals, it's school nurses, it's 86 administrators. And if you remember last week, we thought that they were going to get those letters. Sure enough, Friday afternoon with the 5 o'clock mail, all these people suddenly found out they're being laid off. And one teacher said, I have to have the ability to honestly tell my students And guess what the students did? They burst into tears, so they all cried together.
And
This
some
is
of them-
not a good situation.
Well, some of them even went to the board meeting to kind of plead why they want their teachers to stay. But I was reporting in Cleveland when the 2024 tax levy passed,
Yeah.
because these budget shortfalls and this budget hole it's been looming. This isn't like something new, but now we're seeing the effects of it 2 years later.
Well, and the CEO, his name is Dr. Warren Morgan, he said there are reasons for this. One, declining enrollment. That student population has gone from 70,000 to 34,000. That's almost a 50% drop in 20 years. Then financial pressure based on what you just talked about. And then this issue of building consolidation. They're going to close 18 buildings, shut down 29 schools, and merge 39 others. And if you look at the buildings that are involved in this district, a lot of them are really, really old.
Yeah.
Like some dating back to the 1920s.
I mean, they would like always be without working AC in the summertime. Like they
never
really
had
old
AC.
buildings.
They had
Yeah.
windows.
No, yeah, it's a
That's
problem
right.
though when you have a bunch of kids in there.
But it is kind of very similar to how we've seen Columbus go through and choose which buildings to close, and it tends to be the older ones. What is the one that they voted to close off Mooberry over there, off the Miller Kelton one? That's an incredibly old school building, and it became that maintenance to keep this open is not worth
older
it.
the
anymore.
home, the more expensive the
That's,
upkeep.
that's exactly right.
Somebody
It
older,
becomes
yeah.
cost ineffective to keep
Right.
the
Right.
buildings. All right, so I have trivia for you guys before I go.
Okay.
What does or do the Wu-Tang Clan, Luther Vandross, Sade, Oasis, Joy Division, New Order, Iron Maiden, Billy Idol, and Phil Collins all have in common?
The
They're
Rock
played on
and
adult
Roll
contemporary
Hall of
radio.
Fame?
That would be wrong because you would have to exclude
Because
Iron Maiden and
doesn't
the
fall in
Wu-Tang
there.
Clan.
Yeah, but the others probably fall in there.
So yeah, these are all. She wins.
Oh.
These are all the
I
Rock and Roll
didn't-
Hall
I
of
didn't
Fame
cheat,
inductees.
by the way.
And in order to do that, you have to have had your first commercial recording at least 25 years prior to the year of the nomination. Luther and the Wu-Tang Clan, first-time nominees. That induction ceremony takes place at the Peacock Theater in Los Angeles again on November 14th. Now, second trivia question. What was Phil Collins' biggest solo hit?
Solo hit.
Here, let me give you a hit.
I like his daughter, Lily
Yeah.
Collins. She's a
In
good
the,
actress.
Yes.
Famous drum riff.
Yes,
I can
know.
feel
Feel
Coming
it
Yeah.
in the air tonight.
I was like, what is it?
Time?
I know.
Or
I was like,
the
I've
end
got it on
tonight?
tape.
What are
Do
the
you
Just gotta
guys
wear.
know the story behind this song?
No.
For decades, a popular myth suggested that Collins wrote the song after witnessing a man allow another person to drown without helping.
Oh.
The story
I don't think
goes
that's true.
on. Wait a minute, don't bury the lead. The story goes on to say that he identified the bystander, invited him to one of his concerts, and performed the song with the spotlight shining on him so that he could publicly shame him. Collins said, nope, never happened, not true, unequivocally false.
I thought the story was about like his relationship failing or something.
That's correct.
Okay.
In fact, it is about the loss of his relationship
Yeah.
with his wife.
Yeah.
So Phil Collins, he was inducted in 2010 with Genesis, by the way.
That's
Okay.
fair. I always
And it-
liked how Phil Collins performed too, because he didn't dress up in any specific way. That man would show up out there in a
Office
polo
ready.
and jeans, ready to
Office
go
ready.
to the office.
Business
and I
casual.
loved it.
Yeah.
Doesn't care. Just
Yeah.
give me the sticks.
And
Little,
let
Phil
me
he would always
go.
have his
Great.
headset on,
Yeah.
drums,
Yeah.
good stuff.
I would love to see Phil Collins in concert.
Well, not to
You may
plug
not
the.
be able to. He
Right.
is not in good shape.
correct.
Yes.
Correct. His health has been failing for
But
quite some time now.
go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Have you been there yet, Collin?
I have not.
It is so much fun.
It's the best.
It is the best. If you like, I like looking at like all the clothes
So I have
these
to
celebrities
tell
like
you.
wore, and they're all so tiny.
This was years ago.
It's a lot of fun if you go to Cleveland.
But probably one of the highlights of my professional career
Mm-hmm.
was doing a live broadcast from the radio station in the Rock and Roll Hall of
wow.
Fame and interviewing Casey Kasem on the occasion of the death of the Big Bopper.
American
Wow.
Top 40.
Ted Alexander and I live for
Wow.
an AM station in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Amazing.
All right. Well,
Awesome. Jay, thanks for coming on.
Hey,
I
have a
like the
great
trivia.
Tuesday.
Do that. Let's do that tomorrow.
We'll see what we can do.
Okay.
All right. We'll be right back.
right back. Thanks. Welcome back to the big picture.
Back. Yeah.
We're talking about Stacia. She did a really great package that we first had air this morning on 10 TV News this morning, but we're previewing this again because she has another part of the story coming up later tonight.
And it's fascinating. It is how the state of Ohio is really taking the time to put forward the investment into people who are out of incarceration, who've been incarcerated in the state of Ohio, but finding a way to give them a second chance.
They need jobs. They need work to do. And this is about that effort.
Right. And there's all of these businesses out there that are looking for a workforce. And there is this segment of our workforce who is ready to go. They just need someone to give them a leg up. And that's what Stacia talked about.
Walking into work each day, it's something Rachel Penrod doesn't take for granted. She's part of a team and finding success.
Want to have a good day?
It all felt out of reach not that long ago.
I really didn't know where to start or where to begin putting the pieces of my life back together.
She knew she had a lot to offer, but worried that having a criminal record would stand in the way.
I didn't have a phone or a pair of shoes or my family a place to live, my license or a vehicle. And I have all of that now.
Rachel found a job at Midwest Acoustic Fiber in Delaware. But more than that, she found a second chance.
It's not just a job.
No. This place has sustained me and brought me so far.
Approximately 18,000 men and women are released from Ohio prisons every year. Many of them struggle to find stable employment, a known marker for success in reducing recidivism.
We're thinking about things that have career pathways.
That's the focus for Matt Damschroeder, the director of the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services, which offers specific job services for restored citizens. He says the department works to highlight meaningful employment.
What's short term going to meet their immediate economic needs, but long term what's going to satisfy their needs to be able to support themselves and a family.
Something they can do that they can build their future.
Wendy Tarr with Arch, accompanying returning citizens with hope, says there's more to it than just a paycheck.
They understand that this is the opportunity that they need in order to stabilize themselves, in order to ensure they have a safe place to live. Those are really strong motivators.
Highly motivated employees is exactly what Director Damschroeder says Ohio employers are looking for.
This is really a group of individuals who are ready, willing, and able to fill a lot of those roles.
Rachel Penrod is excited to keep growing with the company. She's already been promoted, and every day she comes to work, it just means more.
In the world today, there's not a lot of light. To be a part of something bigger is everything.
When you hear about the number of people leaving Ohio prisons looking for work, and you see the number of help wanted signs out there, there's obviously a disconnect. But a local program is working to change that. We'll show you how tap manufacturing is changing lives. That's tonight on 10 TV News at 5.
You know, it is a fascinating change in how we utilize our workforce and where we're continuing to look because, you know, there's so many people who it may be a minor offense, but they need that second chance.
Absolutely.
And an employer to say, you know what, that's the past.
Yes.
That is past you.
Let's look forward. And God love that woman. I mean, you can tell how much this meant to her. She was so emotional the entire interview, but Stacia will have more of this coming up later tonight on 10 TV News.
Tonight at 5.
Yep.
All right,
Don't
we'll be right
miss
back. Welcome back to The Big Picture. Right now joined by Columbus City Councilman Nick Bankston. Thank you so much for coming in on this Tuesday.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
We really appreciate it. We are talking about the news of the day, the Women's Pro Soccer League team that people are trying to bring to the city.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
You know, it's a complex one, right? It's something that I think is a once in a generation opportunity for the city of Columbus, a chance for us to get another professional team. And not only just any professional team, a women's soccer team, which is the fastest growing sport and in popularity in America right now. This is an actual legit league when we talk about the National Women's Soccer League. And so bringing that team is a great opportunity. But there's also some pain points along the way. I think the selection process and the site selection and the park that I think a lot of folks are talking about have plans for it. And so I think it gives us this dual opportunity of how do we put our best foot forward as a community and not miss this great opportunity, but also how do we ensure that we uphold our commitments to that community in particular and make sure that we're delivering for the people of Columbus. And so it's a tough situation to be in, but I do think that we are in the running. I do think that we are at the top, and I think we need to continue to press the gas on both ends of how do we get this team, but also how do we deliver for our residents.
Now, the neighborhood you're talking about is the McCoy Park neighborhood. We were talking about it this morning. I mean, the park, it's used, but this year, the winter snow was pushed over there. I mean, how often is McCoy Park actually being used, and why are these residents so concerned that a facility might be built there, but the mayor's saying that they could possibly just get a new park somewhere else?
And you know, I think that there are real concerns. The southwest area of the city has some challenges. It's one of the lowest life expectancy rates, and there's not much green space. To your point, the park is underutilized currently as it sits because it's just simply a grass field. So a lot of little league teams go and play there on the weekends, football or soccer, if you will. But there were designs for a comprehensive renovation of that park, and that's really where the big rub is. But what I will say to this is to double down on what the mayor said, and also what I've been saying is that you know, when this happened and I got the news, we got to go find a solution. Let's go find another site. Let's potentially find a better site and deliver on these same promises. And I said this, that we have to move with warp speed, the same speed that we move sometimes for business. We have to move for our residents to show them that we are committed to this. Now, I will say this, that it's all contingent, right? I mean, upon actually getting the team, fingers crossed. But if the team doesn't come, then we move forward with the current plans. You know, none of this is an issue. But currently right now, I think the issue is that the residents were promised something. Again, when we talk about getting a team, that's not a neat thing that happens, right? It happens fast. There's site selection, and this happened to be the particular site for us. But I think it's a challenge we'll be able to solve.
Are there any other sites that you're thinking about that you can talk about right now?
Well, I can say that we have identified some sites, and there are many more sites that we will continue to look at. I don't want to say where they are, but we're going to work with community to try to figure that out. Yeah,
because parks are an important factor, and obviously in your position, you deal a lot with economic development, especially in your seat on the council, and to bring another major league, a women's league team into Columbus, what could that do for economic development in the city?
Yeah, I mean, in the short, what we're looking at is leveraging the city's investment right out of the gate. We know that the ownership group is going to spend close to $300 to $400 million. That's one, acquiring to the team and then getting up and operating instantaneously. Right, the city gets the most of our revenue from income tax. So those players that'll be playing there, the expansion of the coaching staff, the facility itself, right, and the folks that will be working there, that's all income tax coming back to the city. And then the other thing is that these teams, the valuation of them, when they go up, seemingly having a women's team, that also goes back as an income tax for the city. Not to mention, I think, all of the other economic activity that will be spurred around the stadium, now activating it twice as much. Think about that. We'll be activating the stadium twice. So that means all those small businesses that are inside the stadium, Condado, your local Donatos, Dirty Franks, all of these local businesses that are in that stadium are now going to have twice the opportunity, right, to make money and to continue to hire folks and invest in the community. So yes, there are this thing pays for itself twofold, right, with the ticket fee structure, but then also the return on investment that we will get as a community is going to be pretty massive.
Okay.
And we know about the Ignite Her initiative that's focusing on bringing women's sports to Columbus, but what about men's sports? Men's professional sports.
Men are doing okay.
Okay.
No, I'm
Leave
just
that
joking.
to Cleveland and Cincinnati. I mean, like, have you guys discussed that at all?
No, but I think it sets the stage, right? The more that you can expand and show these types of public-private partnerships and show that there's the fan base there, it sets the stage for other opportunities. So I'm not off the table. I think that if there's every opportunity for the NBA, for the NFL, whatever, we should put our foot forward. And so if Cleveland Cavaliers, folks of Cleveland, if you hear me, come on down to Columbus. We can think about this. We can, we can rebrand it here a little bit. But no, I think that Ignite Her is something that is so great. We have to, I think, show this community that we are going to invest in women equally as we do in men's sports. But I think that Columbus is such a time in its history that all the eyes are on us. And so this is a big moment that could lead to other big moments.
You're right,
And we've
and that's
seen
a
a
good time to
huge-
build the facilities as well. You know what I mean? To actually get them here.
And we've seen a huge growth and interest in women's sports, especially especially in women's basketball. After Caitlin Clark really came out of Iowa, swinging, and we saw this huge renewed interest.
And the
women's
women's
sports.
U.S. team, when they won, in the Olympics a couple years back, I mean, that was huge for us.
Oh, absolutely. So, all right, we're going to make a quick turn here.
Go
and
girls.
let's talk
Girls
about
sports.
a rental registry that you're getting
It's a
ready.
hard turn.
It is
Yeah,
a
this
very
is a
hard turn.
That's what we
that
do
a lot.
on this
There's not a
show.
lot of easy places to make a
Yeah, you
transition
just
here.
gotta
So
go,
we just kind of go. So let's talk about that. That is something that has been discussed a lot in Columbus about how do we hold both landlords and tenants accountable, and this is a way to do that. Tell me about what's going on here.
Yeah, the rental registry is something that's been talked about, as you said, for years in Columbus. And then with this recent package of Housing for All is what we called it, I raised my hand to try to champion this initiative because there has to be a balance, right? We're balancing the rights of tenants and the folks that live in those units and our residents by also balancing the rights of landlords and property owners who are housing providers and also small businesses. And so I think what we've come up with is a very balanced approach that basically simply says that if you rent to folks in the city of Columbus, you have to register with the city. There is a fee that's $15 per unit with a max of 100 units, so no more than $1,500 per property. And in return, what that does is it allows us to have more data on not just simply who owns the place, but who's the contact, who's the person that is supposed to be in charge of caring for the space, who's the emergency contact in case something happens in the middle of the night and we need to get in contact with them. And then the other element that we folded in there is this: every 3 years, we're going to do a proactive kind of educational inspection of the unit, right? That's a cursory review of the exterior. If there are common spaces, looking at the common spaces, just so that it's not necessarily a crackdown, but it's a check-in, that we want to be proactive and get ahead of some of these things that we've seen. Colonial Village sticks in my head, as well as Sawyer Towers. Those are the big kind of outliers, but every single day there's things happening where someone's heat is out or there's a leak, and those residents are scared to call, and there's no recourse for them. And so how do we as a city get more proactive of working with these property owners to ensure that all we're asking is that if you're going to be renting to folks, that you're accountable, that your place is safe and in order. And if you are, then, no harm, no foul. But we need to make sure that we are holding folks accountable and ensuring that if you're going to be in the business of providing housing, that is a quite different commodity than anything else, right? That's where people lay their heads. That's where people raise their families. And so it has to be safe. And that's a true partnership between the tenant and the landlord.
Right. And that's because as it's always been talked about in the past, this isn't to target the good-doing landlords out there who are maintaining their properties and working with these. It's those who are using it just as an income stream and just set it and forget it. And then we end up with these problems, such as Colonial Village. I guess the natural progression of this is when would this roll out?
So you guys are getting exclusive. We're actually going to do a press conference. We've had now, 3 public hearings on this. We've talked about this since last September. I've engaged with many stakeholders. So this is a long time coming, but we'll be doing a press conference tomorrow with my goal and hope is that I will bring this to my colleagues on the 20th for passage. and it will take effect later this year.
Okay. And then can we segue into the emergency rental assistance that was passed last night?
Yeah, this is
okay.
this is a less hard of a turn.
This is a nice curve that we're taking now.
I guess looking back, we could have probably started that and then, but
that was passed last night. Talk to us about that and why it's important to you that it did pass.
Yeah, so we, the mayor put in his budget, really for the first time in the city's history, an actual set aside for emergency rental assistance. So what we passed last night was the funding for the administrative side of that, like how do you apply? But there's $5 million that have been earmarked in this budget to combat housing instability, to ensure that residents who have an emergency, that there's some type of safety net there. Now, I will caution folks, and I tell them, even though it's a historic investment for us as a city, meaning directly from the city, it pales in comparison to the dollars that we had from the federal government during the COVID-19 pandemic. Those just dried up last year, and that's why we see this this pent-up demand for it. But I still think that it will go a long way. That coupled with so many other investments that we're making to ensure that folks stay stably housed, I think is going to go a long way. So last night was one step to turn that light switch on, if you will, and there'll be more information coming about qualifications, how you apply, and all of that. But we'll continue, I know, to work with those trusted housing partners out in the community that have been a part of this from the very beginning. Those settlement houses, those nonprofit organizations that folks go to and seek help every single day.
Hopefully the rental registry will also kind of just trickle down into everything as well, so people wouldn't have to, go seek other housing. You know what I mean? It all kind of plays into one another.
And you make a good point. The rental registry, I think, is also a tool. So for some of our property owners that don't have the ability to advertise for themselves, this will be a repository where folks can see who are the good actors out there. So if I'm looking for a place to rent, right, I know where to go. But also it's going to be a tool for us to say, if you want access to some of these city resources, you got to be registered, and we got to know who to contact for this property, who the ownership is, and we want you to be a good partner with us.
All right. Councilman Nick Bankston, thanks so much for joining us here on The Big Picture. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
All right. We'll be right back.
You. All right, welcome back to the Jinx, Collin.
We keep doing that.
I know.
We gotta assign that eventually.
We gotta assign it. Take turns. Okay. Well, joining us this morning is Dr. Jared Pinson with Cedarville University. He's an associate professor of economics. Hey there. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us again. Dr. Pinson, you specialize in the behavioral impact of gambling, and today we're talking about there's a new move from Ohio legislators to get this new bill passed, basically, that controls sports betting in the state of Ohio. And I'm trying to find
The
my
Save
notes
Ohio
here.
Sports
The Save
Act.
Ohio Sports
Yes.
Act. I knew it was something like that. So this would eliminate mobile sports betting by removing access from smartphones, banning parlay bets and other high-risk wagers, and restricting certain betting practices and advertising methods. Having said all this, when you factor in economics and how much sports betting generates for Ohio's economy, what do you think about this new act that's trying to get passed?
If you just look at economics, it'll be a considerable change. About 98, almost 99% of all sports wagering in Ohio is mobile. There's very little elsewhere. The next highest is in person, but that's less than 1%. And then there are these very small number of kiosks and bars and restaurants that you can place betting. So it will shift significantly where people are betting and the amount that people will bet. Just in February alone, there was like $758 million bet in the state, roughly.
Right. Yeah. So how realistic is this bill, though, in a world full of smartphones and where these apps were specifically designed for people to bet on their phones?
Well, from a technology perspective, it could easily be done. Like you could just stop that. But from a practical perspective, it will eliminate almost all sports wagering in the state. And I have a hard time believing that such a bill as written is passed. At least that part of the bill. Some of the other parts of the bill are more attractive, I think, for legislators, limiting the type of wagers that people make. I don't know what the authors mean by other high-risk wagers, but parlays are certainly profitable for sports books, but very risky for the individual gamblers. So, or even limiting certain prop bets. We've already done that with limiting the types of bets that you can do in college. So those two aspects are much more realistic in passing rather than eliminating online sports wagering as a whole.
Now, supporters of this, and it's something that we've talked about even here on this program, is that it has opened up an easier way into addiction gambling. I've talked with young people who found themselves blowing through thousands of dollars of whether that be inheritance from a grandparent or something. In some of your studies, how serious is the addiction risk, especially with young men, say, under the age of 35?
Yeah, and that's the target audience for sports books, because those are the individuals who are more likely to make riskier decisions. I always say there's a reason historically young men have gone to war. They're more risk loving than other subsets. So yeah, it's a growing problem, and it's two things that came together. One is just that it's suddenly legalized, and the other one is, of course, the way that you can bet. If we had legalized 30 years ago, we wouldn't see the same type of addiction problems that we do now, because you would have had to physically go to a casino or to a sports book. Now you just take out your phone and it looks like a game, right? And it's gamification, and that just feeds into the risk behavior. So it's a growing problem, and I'm glad that there is at least recognition of this issue.
Yeah, and I mean, again, in gambling, there's winners and there's losers, but who loses from this?
From the specific bill or just sports wagering in general? Sorry. I mean, who loses directly is the sports books, because it will significantly impact how much wagering occurs. Now, I don't think 99% of the market disappears. Part of that market will shift to in-person gaming. So you'd see a significant loss of revenue there. The state would also lose tax revenue. We currently, as Ohio, tax 20% of what's called gross gaming revenue. And so there will be significant less revenue coming in. Now, the question is, and this is an open-ended question, is how well has Ohio spent the money that they've brought in over the last few years? That's an open-ended question that I can't answer.
Mm-hmm. All right, Dr. Jared Pinson, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll be right back.
Yeah.
Hey, Meredith.
Hey guys, I'm happy to be here. Space Tuesday.
Yes, girl. What's going on?
Well, we've got something exciting happening in Ohio. If you did not know, there is an air and space trail, and I was able to learn more about it and how we are celebrating 250 years of America. Check it out. It's time to talk about space, and we are coming off the historic Artemis II mission. Joining me is Todd Kleismit. He is America 250 Ohio's executive director. We're so excited to have you with us because people may not realize that there's a lot of roots of space right here in the Buckeye State.
There sure is, Meredith. Ohio is really bringing it when it comes to air and space, and so we're excited to be a small part of it here with the nation's 250th anniversary this year.
So how is it connected? I know we were talking a couple weeks ago for Women's History Month. I was on the Ohio Air and Space Trail talking about Jerry Mock and her historic flight around the world, but there's a lot more than just that display at the works.
There is. We have created some driving trails around the state of Ohio with the tourism professionals around the state. And so we call the program Trails and Tales, and Tales is T-A-L-E-S because there's so many stories around Ohio. You know, it all started with the Wright brothers, and there's so much with air and space in Ohio. Lots of places to go and visit. We've created something called the Air and Space Trail that features more than 40 sites around Ohio. Big sites, small sites, there's something for everything, some things you're going to learn and discover that you didn't know about. So it's really exciting.
That does sound really cool. Are there a lot here in specifically Central Ohio, or is it something where it might take you a couple days to drive around the entire state, maybe on a weekend to accomplish it?
Well, I think it would be a very long weekend, that's for sure. There's so many places, but yeah, right here in Central Ohio, you mentioned the Works. That's a great place to learn more specifically about Jerry Mock. You know, think about this. Just in the 1960s, John Glenn was the first to orbit the Earth. That gave John Kennedy the confidence to go and announce that we were going to land on the moon by the end of the decade. 1964, Jerry Mock becomes the first woman to travel around the Earth. Jim Lovell in 1968, he was born in Cleveland. You know, and then of course Neil Armstrong landing on the moon in 1969. And there's been so many contributions. We have 26 astronauts, all from Ohio. So all these places around the state, places to experience. COSI is another great place to learn about the science behind all of this technology. There's just an endless supply here in Ohio. We're really excited about that. There's even some places where you can go and get up in an airplane. There's a place called the Waco Museum in Troy, where we launched the Air and Space Trail a couple of years ago. Just Ohio has so much to offer. We're really excited to be a small part of that, and what a great time to do that during the nation's 250th anniversary.
It just gives you chills, you know, to think about everything we've accomplished in the last 250 years. What are you most excited about as we celebrate this year when it comes to the Air and Space Trail?
I think with that, the timing is great. There are so many ways to go learn and discover about Ohio's contributions to air and space all over the state of Ohio. So yeah, whether it's Central Ohio or someplace else, you know, we have NASA facilities. We talked about some of the astronauts, but so many contributions made, and it's not just all clustered in one spot. It's all over the state of Ohio. Really exciting, and people can find out more about this at america250ohio.org.
When you talk about people going to these places, we know Ohio's weather can be crazy. We've seen it within the last week. So as far as that goes for, you know, outdoors, indoors, is it a nice mix? Do you need to kind of map out where you're going in the weather before you decide?
Yeah, it is a mix of indoor and outdoor experiences. And by the way, that's one of the things to qualify to be on the Air and Space Trail is that you need to be able to have a visitor experience. So even though we do have things like roadside memorials, it really is about directing people to places where they can have a visitor experience and go and learn about Ohio's contributions to air and space, both indoors, outdoors, whether it's Central Ohio or somewhere else in Ohio. There's so much to pack in. So, and these are places that have been existing for many, many years. So you don't have to do it all in 2026, but it's the perfect time to go and experience this and reflect on what Ohio's contributed to the United States of America.
And it sounds like it's something you can do with your family, but also it's something where if you're a history buff like me, you can go out, you can explore, but you can also take your time, but know that you're rewalking some of the steps that back in the day, in the last 250 years, aviation, aerospace, it all happened here in Ohio.
Right. And I think there's more than 550 different aviation and aerospace manufacturers in Ohio. So no matter how you look at it, Ohio is really up when it comes to air and space, the legacy that's here in Ohio.
And that was Todd Kleismith, the America 250 Ohio Executive Director. Some cool, fun stuff you didn't know is in our own backyard.
There's
America
so much
250.
aviation stuff. Yeah, it's great.
It's fun. And space, it's with Artemis, there's a lot more to come for future generations.
Absolutely.
Thanks for watching The Big Picture today. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.